Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another OSR tabletop live stream with GM Bloodworth. And as you can see, I am continuing my weekly contributions of RPG a Day 2022. I found that doing a live stream in a weekly format is just working better for me. It allows me to prepare everything during the week, and then on either Saturday or Sunday, just do a really quick live stream and go through all of the week's worth of prompts. So without further ado, let's get to day 15, which would have been Monday. And Monday's prompt was, who would you like to game master for you? I mean, I will, of course, mention probably the most obvious of individuals. So Gary Gygax is one. Frank Mentzer is another. Um, as far as individuals not directly associated with either old TSR or Dungeons and Dragons specifically. Um, I would prefer to have people that created games running their games. So I'm really looking forward to going to Avenger Con, or whether it be any other con where Venture Satanis would would GM Chalt and play in his game. Um, there's always Sandy Peterson for Call of Cthulhu that I would love to sit in on. Steve Chenault of Castles and Crusades, or his brother Davis. That would be really cool. So the creators of any games, the RPG Pundit would be great. Shoner. Shoner would be another one for Roll for Sanity. For Traveler, I'd love to see or love to sit in on one of his games as a player in in a Traveler adventure with him. So basically, just any creator of their own game system, I would love to sit in on their game and be a player in their game. So day 16, this would have been Tuesday. What would you what would be your perfect game? Um, I'm not quite sure what they meant by this prompt, whether they meant your perfect game session or just the perfect game. I don't think that there is a perfect game. Um, you're always going to find something that doesn't work for you as a game master or doesn't work for you as a player, and sometimes it could be so significant that you just choose not to run it anymore, or play in that anymore. So I don't believe that there is a perfect game. Certainly not one that is where you're interacting with other players, and you're sitting at the table with a game master running something for you. I don't think that that's a perfect game, or you can find one that you would consider to be perfect. Um, if I'm playing a solo RPG, like a computer RPG, um, I guess Elder Scrolls comes very close to really capturing that, what I'm looking for. So Skyrim might be a perfect single player computer RPG, game. Um, and that's because you can freely do whatever you really want. And you could also mod it, mod the crap out of it to really make it fit what is your definition of perfection. But as far as tabletop games, I don't believe that there is such a thing as a perfect game. So, I have a couple comments here. Let's see. Um, Hello, Dark Winter. Uh, nice to meet you. I don't recognize your name, so really nice to see you here. And let's see. If you were asking to play in a game inspired by D&D animated series, which character would you like to run? Oh, that's cool. Um, Even though he wasn't my favorite character from the cartoon, I think Eric the Cavalier only using a shield um, is an interesting character concept. Um, I mean, because you have to imagine, like, just imagine if you were playing a fighter type or a cavalier type in his case, and just saying, well, I'm only going to use a defensive weapon. You know, I mean, maybe you can get a shield bash in there or something, but to me, that's a pretty cool concept to play around with. Um, and all too often you'll find players that kind of min max their characters and they go for the maximum advantages that they can do. And so I think you very rarely come across a fighter in D&D, let's say, that has a double specialization in dagger. You know, it's going to be the sword or the bow or a spear or something that just dishes out much more damage and has greater reach or whatever. So yeah, I would go with Eric the Cavalier, even though he was not my favorite character watching the cartoon, but I think it's the most interesting challenge that you can create, using that. And thank you for your wishes and best wishes to you. Good luck. And let's get back to our banners. So we did who would you like to game master? What will be your perfect game? Day 17. Past, present, or future, when is your favorite game set? So again, I am going to put it in game terms of, and the present becomes kind of weird if you think about it. But if I were to, whenever I run a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in the world of Greyhawk, I always said it in the present, which is always after the timeline. And that's why I said present's kind of weird because you can shift whatever that present is according to a timeline that exists. So I would usually set a new campaign immediately following or within like 100 years following the um, the official published timeline of whatever world setting. And the reason why I do that is that I don't want to step on the lore in any real way, or just have the lore in the distant memory of potentially the player characters that are there. And I mean, if you have an elf, they might have lived during those time frames as well. But for the most part, I like to respect the lore and the timeline of the world setting that I'm using. And so I would do either the present, but set it immediately following, or the future, like 100 years beyond the official world setting timeline. So day 18, I want to say this was Thursday. Where is your favorite place to play? Um, well, currently I am playing from home. I mean, from this seat you're seeing, I only play virtually right now. Um, I'm looking forward to actually going to an in-person con, and I'm going to ShireCon in September, and I've already signed up for two games there. One is AD&D, and the other is um, ooh, I just slipped my mind. I just signed up for them yesterday. Um, One is definitely AD&D, and the second one might be second edition. So, not quite sure. I was thinking about running something at ShireCon, but just the timing became an issue for me. And unfortunately, I just couldn't put something together in time in order to submit and do that whole thing. So it'll be nice to go there with just you know without lugging a whole bunch of books with me, and to just go there ready to play. Why has your favorite game stayed with you? All right, so this one I could do a whole video on, but I'm going to try to keep this short. Um, I still play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. I've played within the last 2 years uh, D&D Beckme, the basic expert portions of Beckme. I've played Holmes Edition over these last 2 years, but I keep on going back to AD&D First Edition because it is not only my favorite edition, but I think that it is truly an evergreen edition. You can play this game for 40 years, and you can modify it to match up what you're really looking for the game to do. And um and the game system itself is modular and flexible enough that you can do all of that and still enjoy the game. It is much more challenging than other game systems that I've played, certainly modern role playing games. I think that it really does capture um, what Gary Gygax considered to be the pinnacle of his game mastery. If I were to go with a modern game, and one that I believe I am going to stick with going forward for many, many years to come, it'll be Castles and Crusades. Again, if I were to replace Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, it would only be with Castles and Crusades. Um, I don't see myself going to newly minted edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Whether they want to admit that they have new editions or not is a different story. I'll save that for a video later on as well. But yeah, AD&D is my first true love. It's not my first RPG, so I want to make that clear. Um, I eventually evolved into playing AD&D First Edition. I played that for the longest back in from roughly 80 or possibly 79 through 88 or so. And then I made my return to AD&D First Edition a little over a year ago as a game master. Yeah, so AD&D First Edition is definitely there. I'm still with it because I just love the system. I think it really does capture the essence of Dungeons and Dragons better than any other iteration of Dungeons and Dragons. How long do your games last? Well, again, I'm not quite sure whether they mean a game session or a campaign. My game sessions at this time, at this age, age 55 plus, uh, my game sessions last between 3 and 4 hours. 3 hours almost always, 4 hours on rare occasion. We really have to be really into the mix of things at that point, and I start declining both in voice and in just being able to stay awake. Plus, my back starts, hurting like hell. So, 4 hours is my upper limit. The most time that I've spent on screen had to be a little over a year ago when I did a live stream with Legion of Myth, and that was like a 7-hour live stream, and I thought I was gonna lose my mind. I was totally wrecked, from voice to just being exhausted. It was a long, long slog. So now, if you're talking about campaigns, my current campaign is into my AD&D First Edition campaign is into its 55th week. So that is of my most recent number of years of having made a return to the tabletop role playing hobby around 2015 or so. This is my current longest lasting campaign. Prior to this one, they typically lasted about 4 months long. But this time, 55 weeks, a little over, a year, coming up on a year and a month, and just loving every minute of it. So yeah, 3 hours a session, and months, if not a year or more per campaign, is really what I consider to be my gaming time. And then finally, we have today's day 21. Share an intriguing detail from a game setting you enjoy. So, wow, this one was really hard for me to think about, and um, I had to go to the Hyborian Age, and anything set in the Conan period, Conan the Barbarian time frame, and you have Shadazar and its mall with its it's like its den of thieves kind of um, back alleyways and such, and it's just, to me, when it's depicted properly, and I would certainly break out one of Robert E. Howard's books, and where the stories are in there, and just read the passage for that as an introduction to the players, so that they get a real sense of the seediness and the danger, especially at nighttime, in the mall, in the city of Shadazar the Wicked. um, but you have other city centers like that. I like the seedier places in various cities that you have. I mean, there's Shadazar the Wicked. There is Aranjun, the City of Thieves, that is very similar to that. Um, there's just every city in the Hyborian Age, um, Conan the Barbarian world setting, has these centers of thievery and such. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons does as well. I believe that the city of Luskan is a port city that is very seedy as well. Virtually the entire city is pretty seedy. Um, I'm sure Neverwinter or Waterdeep have their although I'm less familiar with Forgotten Realms in general. um, they have their fairly seedy areas as well. And in Greyhawk, I mean, you have countries that are, like the Pomage, or the Scarlet Brotherhood, the lands of the Scarlet Brotherhood, or the Bandit Kingdoms. You have Eots, and just the regular evil centers around the world that have a certain mystique about them that is, that you don't go there, like the Dreadwood Forest or the Vast Swamp, or any of these places that have actually come up in the literature, or are the centerpiece location of some of the most challenging adventures. um, my AD&D characters, their players, I mean, in my campaign, are about to enter the Hool Marshes, which is I just drew a blank, Keelland, or some of the partitions between Keelland and the Sea Princes, and Yeomanry. And so when they start delving into that swampland, It's their first real time in a heavily swampy area, and being at mid-level now, level 6, 7, potentially a couple very close to 8th level, it being a fairly large group of 7 or 8 player characters, that they are going to start meeting some pretty interesting challenges in a swamp setting. So that's going to be very intriguing to see how I can twist that and kind of not completely subvert their expectations, but throw them a few curveballs without a doubt. So certainly looking forward to that. All right, I am. So that is days 15, I believe, day 15 through 21 of of RPG a day 2022. I'll bring this banner back up there. And I know Sunday afternoons, they don't get very many people popping in. So I'm going to cut this one fairly short and let it just focus on RPG a day. I will return possibly later on this evening with a video and go back to talking about castles and crusades and go through the combat system. I'm going to be fairly busy this next 4 days with working and prepping for my Tuesday night AD&D game. We are missing, I believe, our first week since we've been, over a year. And that's because I was away on vacation and we just couldn't bring everybody together this weekend in order to do it. So I'm just going to wait until Tuesday. We missed one summer month, one summer week, I should say. So that's not terrible. But we will pick up with week 55, and I am going to wrap this up. I will check comments one more time and see if anybody has new comments. Nope. So I am going to wrap this one up. You'll have a great afternoon, and I will see you or look forward to seeing you sometime in the very near future. And you all have a good remainder of your weekend, good upcoming week. Stay safe out there and keep on gaming. Take care.